Well, first of all, I want to extend a welcome to my podcast, which is called Reinvention. The premise has always been about men and women who have made choices in their life that have been quite intentional in terms of trying to find ways to seek what their truth is, what their why is, what their North Star is. And the reason I thought you were that person is for all that you've done. So I've done my research. You've been a journalist, a TV host, an author, a politician. I'm sure there's many other hats. Plus, you're a mother, which is probably the most incredible
Yeah.
and number one out of all of those different hats that you wear.
Yeah.
And I just felt that today would be an opportunity for us to have a conversation in terms of being able to give a direction for those of us out there who are still trying to figure things out or maybe are a little bit unsure. So I want to welcome you, Marci Ian, to Reinvention.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here. I love the
Well,
premise. I love all of this.
well, thank you very. So just to be clear, I mean, I have been watching. I watched you when I was, when I was living in Montreal. Now I'm living in Paris, and you were on Canada AM. It was the Good Morning America of Canada.
Yes.
You have to wake up sounding very cheerful and happy to welcome people into their homes, and you did a really incredible job doing that. What would you say has been the most proud role you've ever had in your career?
Oh my gosh, there have been several careers, but when it comes to journalism, making that leap from Canada AM to the social, a talk show where all of a sudden I wasn't interviewing others, but I was opening up myself. I was vulnerable. And that's not a place that I needed to be when I was doing Canada AM. But making that switch from news and interviews to opening up and telling Canada about my story, not someone else's. And again, being really vulnerable about that, what it was like growing up in Canada as the daughter of immigrant parents, the friends I had, the challenges I had, what it was like, to be and is like to be a Black woman in Canada and raising kids and all of those things. All of a sudden, I was sharing my story. And that wasn't always a safe place. I didn't always feel safe, but I took the leap anyways.
And how did you find that path in terms of allowing vulnerability? Because I can say for myself, vulnerability is something, it's a destination. It's not always a place that's easy to find. Oftentimes I've shied away as a person that's quite open and public in some ways, but extremely private. How did you find that place to be able to let people into that comfort, that zone that you probably protected for so many years?
Well, it came with time. It came with time, and it came because I was working with women that I trusted, and I was in an environment where I felt safe with them, and they were sharing. And so it became stories that I was sharing. It doesn't it doesn't mean comfort, Charles, because I don't know that I was extremely comfortable at all times, but I also believe that's where learning happens. That's when you grow, when you're not comfortable. So the vulnerability uh, came and continues to come with time, but it does matter who you're with. It does matter, the spaces that you're in when you're opening up that way.
Absolutely. And also making the judgment as to, is this the right room I should be in right now
That's
in this
right.
moment? Can I really allow my vulnerability to be showcased? Or will it be,
That's right.
a sense of being weak? Because sometimes people, I've had clients over the years who have told me, oh, I don't want to seem vulnerable because being vulnerable would mean people are going to think I'm weak and I can't do things. They're not going to respect me. And the fact is, that's not true at all. The fact that vulnerability, I've always looked at as a strength. So for you to tap into that and know that, you know what? I could do this and to
It,
own it.
yeah, it's a strength. It is about owning it, but it's so interesting who listens when you allow yourself to be that way and who immediately identifies with you. And I found that when I shared things um, about my life and experiences, there was so much feedback. I had so many people writing to me, emailing to me saying, you know what, I went through that too. Or thanks for sharing that. That gave me a sense of comfort because I didn't feel as alone as I've felt. So it's that part too, where you people start to identify, and it becomes this really special place because it allows your vulnerability, allows other people to be vulnerable too. It often looked like an opening up, not just of me, but others, because I shared.
And you gave them permission as well by being yourself. That level
Absolutely.
of authenticity, like you were saying, by being authentic, because I always say authenticity is what really opens the door for so many people to suddenly say, I see her, I
That's right.
know her,
That's
she's
right.
like me, that kind of thing.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And it also tapped into a different part of me. I really came into myself. That switch from AM, and I loved AM, to the social allowed me to be me, warts and all, in front of an entire country.
Wow, what a transition. That's beautiful. Did you know that you were this proponent for reinvention? Because at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest with each other, you have worn many hats in your career and in your life. And there may be moments during those times when you were making these changes, like most of us sometimes say, well, I can't believe this. I keep changing, I keep doing things. Did you ever have moments where you felt that people may have been judging your choices?
The choices never really felt like choices. They were transitions. They were opportunities that came to me. I wasn't planning to leave AM. I didn't know AM was ending. So I thought I'd be there. I thought I'd be there for the rest of my career, really, because it's that kind of job. I didn't know it would be ending, and I didn't know I'd be leaving, and I didn't know that the social would be my next destination. The same thing for politics. These things were never a choice where I thought, okay, I'm going to go out there and do this because this is what I want to do. They came to me, and I'm so grateful they did, at amazing times and important times.
So what would be your secret recipe for being so resilient, Marci? Because at the end of the day, sometimes, like you said it wasn't really my choice. The choice was being thrown at me, and I had no other opportunity. I had to just take it and kind of grow with it. What's your secret for resilience?
Always being open and having the courage to leap. A lot of us don't tap into that, and we don't do that enough. That courage to say, I can do this, and run towards the uncomfortable. Run towards it. Don't shy away from it.
Why do you think it's so hard for, I mean, I would say humans, but even for maybe women of today, where they have so much on their plate, especially their mothers, and they have other obligations? Why do you think it's so difficult for that to happen, for people to keep reinventing?
Because we often don't see ourselves in these places.
Mm.
I've been in places where I've been the only for most of my career slash careers. So it's one of those things, Charles, that, they say if you can see her, you can be her. But what about those places where you don't see her? And the places I've been, there really hasn't been a lot of me, people that look like me or have had the experiences that I've had. And so it's hard. It's hard to see yourself and leap into places where you don't see anybody. It can be scary and lonely. And so, women may look at that and think, I can't. So many women, the first question they asked me was, how are you doing all that you're doing with your kids? You've got pretty young kids. How is that happening? And I made it work, and my kids came along for the ride. And if you talk to them, they would say it wasn't always perfect, but I always tried to include them in what I was doing. They always knew what I was doing, the kind of work I was doing, and I tried to include them in it.
And you also showed them the importance, I guess, in the same track of hard work, of staying focused, of following the dream. Because I also think there's something about following the dream that many of us forget, right?
Absolutely. My kids know what it looks like to work hard and to accomplish things, but do it um, in a way that shows empathetic leadership, thoughtful leadership, They know what that looks like. They know what it looks like to have curiosity not die and to push through things even when they're hard. They also now know what it looks like to rest after, years of doing all sorts of things and take some time to decide what comes next. So they know hard work, but they also know rest. They know what sacrifice looks like.
And is it difficult as a mother when you reinvent yourself in these moments and you want your children maybe to make choices and you sort of want to guide them because you see, oh, this may be better for you. How are you able to still balance your reinvention with maybe when they're also doing the same thing?
Yeah, they've always been part of all of this, meaning I've consulted them along the way. And, when I was making that leap or considering the leap from broadcast, from the social to politics, my son was 8 years old at the time and didn't understand all of the ramifications. But my daughter did. She was 15, and it was 2020, and the world literally was on fire. George Floyd had just been killed. Um, we were on the cusp of a pandemic. Many of us thought, oh, it'll be a couple of weeks. It ended up being a couple of years. And I felt I was having these conversations with myself. I loved the social. I loved the women. I loved my job. But there's this thing in me that kept kind of prodding away and saying, do you need to serve? And it was actually that word, serve in a different way. What do you need to be doing at this time where the world is so unstable and there's so much going on? Can you help in a different way? And I didn't know what that looked like, but my phone rang uh, about a month after that, and it was the Prime Minister's office on the line. And so I had a decision, a big one to make about whether I would run in this by-election in Toronto Centre or not. And I went to my daughter and laid it all out. And wise beyond her years, Blaze is. She really is. And then she looked at me and she said, well, if not you, Mom, who?
Wow.
And so ran in a by-election.
That is incredible. And isn't it incredible that it's the advice from your daughter?
It was the advice from my daughter. So my kids have always been included in these steps along the way. And I think it's given them strength to make the decisions that they need to make and understand, it's always been, listen, it's not going to be perfect. It won't be a perfect path. You will fall down 600 times. Just make sure you get up 601.
And what advice, Marci, today would you give to those people out there who are sitting on the fence and they're sitting there saying, wow, I would love to do what Marci's doing. I would love to make this leap in my career, but I don't know how that's going to look because I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. I'm afraid that, well, if I don't make it, then I won't be able to provide for my children, or I won't, whatever that case is. What advice can you offer from your experience today to make those people make that leap?
Well, I was in that position. I was leaving a job that paid me a lot more than public service did, frankly, and I had to take care of my children. But I really thought that if I made that leap and I was doing it for all the right reasons, that it would work out. And it did. Comfort is a very dangerous thing. And most of the time, people that are in positions and they're thinking about moving don't move because they're comfortable. They're comfortable. They can do their job like the back of their hand. They know their position. They know what time they start and what time they'll end every day. Everything comes easily. And what I've learned is that that is not the best place to be. That we should be always striving to learn something new. And more importantly, make a difference. And at a time such as this, and a world such as this, it is something that I think everybody should be contemplating. How do I do my part? how do I make things a little better for others? Maybe it's about not putting the focus on ourselves all the time, even with kids and even with the responsibilities. Consider taking a leap. Consider learning. Consider serving in different ways. Consider community.
Which is really the bigger picture, right? The larger picture of it all. How has this journey defined who you are? And in terms of the outcome, is there any moment in your career where you thought you wish the outcome was different?
Mm. Um, that's a really good question. I know that I am one that perseveres. I know that I'm resilient beyond measure. I know that I'm tough. I know that I'm empathetic. And I know that I have a heart to serve. I can't say that I have regrets or was looking for a different outcome. I can say that I wish I did more. And so that often surfaces when I'm mentoring other people, whether it's young journalists or would-be politicians or whoever it is. I give the advice, listen, do this because I didn't. Do this quicker because I wish I did this. I will give them the advice I wish I had when I was in their position or at their age. But, I look at everything, and honestly, Charles, one thing has led to another. It's almost been building blocks, my life. That one thing literally has led to another. I learned this skill because it helped here. I did a kids show when I was 10 years old, from 10 until 16. And in order to do that show, I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for a 6 a.m. call. And years later, I remember laughing to myself because when I started Canada AM, I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning for
The
a
same
6 a.m.
hours.
Right?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, was that preparing me for this? Going through those scripts and lines and having a work ethic at 10 years old, I think prepared me for something that was decades away. And it's been like that for every single step, from Circle Square to Canada AM, and the interviewing and listening to people on Canada AM prepared me for the social. And then being able to be, more vulnerable and share and all of those things prepared me well for politics. Even the hard times, when you're vulnerable, you open yourself up and not everybody will like that. And there were times where it was hard because emails would come in. They weren't nice. Got some hate for the things that I was saying on the social. And boy, that prepared me for politics really, 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 really well. So not anything that I wish that, had a different outcome. I appreciate every step and what each step taught me and the skills that each step gave me.
And it sounds like you said you want to do more, which brings me to the segue of my next question. What's next for you in terms of doing more in your career? Because it feels like you've done so much in such a very short span of time. So what's left? What's on the go for you to coming up?
Well, I'm speaking a lot, and that's been really interesting because I'm sharing my experiences with people across the country, literally. And I am speaking about leadership and leadership for this time, and yes, making a leap, and yes, at any age, and tapping into that vulnerability. A lot of the things that we've been talking about are the things that I've been speaking about. And it's